Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of T-Dog RC, and we are carrying on with this beast. This is the Flybaby from VQ Models. I think it's the biggest plane I've ever built, and if you've been following along you'll know that I'm putting a 40cc twin-cylinder Saito 4-stroke in this, so it's going to be a real nice thing. So in this episode we've got to kind of get all the little bits finished. So we've got to get the radio installed, radio gear installed, we've got to get the fuel tank installed, the ignition system, all that sort of stuff. Undercarriage I've got to go on. So lots to do in this video. So if you're enjoying following along with this and you're not subscribed but you're into things like fixed wing, Balsa, nitro engines, petrol engines, all that sort of stuff, then why not follow along to the channel? Helps me build the channel, doesn't cost you anything. Hit the subscribe button, and if you're enjoying watching, give me a thumbs up as well. That'd be great. So without further ado, let's get this on the bench and let's get stuck in. Alright, so back on the bench to carry on getting this Flybaby finished. So going to try and get all the little fiddly bits done in this episode and pretty much get it ready to fly, hopefully. So first job I've got to do is I need to thread some steel cable between these two things, which they do supply in the kit. You get a little reel of it. It's just a scale thing really. You don't obviously need to do this, but may as well. So it's relatively straightforward. Obviously just got to cut a length of this off, and then we just get these little cylinders that they include that we just squish down with the pliers. So actually need to put it on first, thread it through. So we'll get that side crimped, to lock that in place, and then we'll just do the same on this bottom one. Okay, that should be okay. So we'll crimp that. And then let's just trim these bits down. And there we are. So I just got to do that for the other side, obviously, and there's some smaller ones underneath which actually attach to the tail wheel, which is a bit weird, but there we go. So I'll get all that done, and then I think the next job is going to be moving on to the throttle servo. Okay, that's all the wire set up. It's actually quite difficult to see on the camera, but you can see there's there, and there. Was fairly straightforward to do, obviously. The only thing is the wire that I've got left, I'm pretty sure is not enough to do the wings, and I've checked the box, there's no more, and I haven't used it, you know, like I've been pretty careful with how much I've used. It's not like I pulled loads of wire through and crimped it, so yeah, bit of a problem, that one, but I can get some more online, so I'm just gonna have to order some more. It's only £5 for a batch of it, so that's fine, but it's just a bit frustrating, those sorts of things, when you've got to order stuff again, and you know there's no local model shops around these days, so can't just nip in and get some. I'm gonna have to pay for the shipping and all that, but it's fine anyway. We'll get it sorted. Don't need to worry about that just yet. I can't actually put the wing wire on anyway until I've got it pretty much finished and it's outside on its wheels, and I've got the wings on, because it's just so big. I can't. It's too big for the workshop to put the wings on, so I've got to wait till I can get it outside and get all that set up. So I'll do that some point before the maiden, but probably won't film it. So next job is I've got to put the throttle cable in, or get the throttle servo set up. So I've already mounted the engine temporarily up to the firewall, made a mark where the throttle lever is and drilled a hole, and then I've just sort of temporarily put the snake outer in, ready for that. So what we've got to do next is get the servo installed. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so just to show you there, there's the outer of the cable just poking through, and I measured it. It's around about 20 mils that it needs to stick out. I can always trim that down if it's too much, but yeah, that could be enough movement for where the throttle lever is. And then the throttle servo, could put it here. Could put it here, which would be better for the CG because it can go up here, but I want to try and reduce the nose weight as much as I can. The only thing is, if I put it there, actually no, it's not. I think if I put it facing that way, it's not going to foul with the rudder servo, so that's okay. The only thing I will need to do though is we're going to have to fasten this down, so because it wants to be sort of fairly straight run, so I'm going to fasten it like that. I don't think that's going to be too in the way because it's still got loads of room around here. You can't really see that on the camera, but yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Right, got this all set up then. So the throttle cable's going to run down here. I am going to put the servo here because, like I say, that's right on the CG, and the more I can do to not add any extra nose weight, the better. Although the servo's not mega heavy, but it all adds up. So I've drilled the holes for the servo and then put the screw in, taking it back out, put some CA on there, so that's all ready to go. What I might do further down the line is, I'm not going to connect this to the servo just yet until I've got the engine installed and just getting everything finally set up, but obviously I've got to cut this down. But what I'll do is I might put a little plywood plate with a hole in it here and then just slide that over the, because I've already glued it in up at the firewall, so I'll just slide it over and then just fasten that in there just to give it some extra support, and that should just sit there really nice. So all I've got to do now is get the servo in, and this is all set up ready to go, and I am using one of these little grub screw crimp servo fittings because they're perfect for the throttle. So just got to feed that in there. That's going to sit in there nicely. Just get these servo screws put in place. Okay, that's got that sorted. I don't know about you, but I hate servo screws. Even these high-tech ones, you'd think they'd be sort of decent quality, but they never are. I have got a pack of hex head ones, which I never use for some stupid reason, but I should use them on this really. So much nicer. The other thing I've done is centered the servo as well, so that is all ready to go. So yeah, I think, like I say, I'll just have a piece of wood just sort of sticking out here, and I'll just CA it to this side post here just to hold that in position. Yeah, so that's going to work nicely, keeps the weight there. So that's that job done. So I think what I'm going to do next is get the receiver put into position. I'm going to put the receiver sort of around here, so I'll show you that. Get everything connected to that, so that's all in place. Then what I've got to do is work out where I'm going to fit. I've got a fuel tank on order. There is obviously one with the kit. You do get one, but they're not always the most amazing quality, so I've got a Dubro one on order because I really like those. That should arrive any time now. So then I can get that fitted in, see how that's going to look, and get the ignition system fitted in as well. And then once we've done all that, so that's going to be my next job, then I think it's a case of getting the engine mounted and getting the cowl on, which is going to be a bit of a pig, I think, but it's got to be done. Got a little job to do, just got to glue the canopy on, so I need to get that done. And then I've got to sort the undercarriage out, so the undercarriage will come like this, but there's some sort of plastic covers that bolt onto them, so the only thing is you've actually got to drill through the steel, but we'll be able to sort that. I really need a pillar drill for that, but I haven't got one. But I've got some nice sharp drill bits, so we should be able to sort that out. Yeah, so I think that's what's going to be coming next. Is let's get the receiver installed, fuel tank, and the ignition system. I keep thinking there's loads of like big jobs to do, but there isn't. I'm almost there with it now. It's getting close to being done. It's just obviously putting the engine on and getting that cow to fit. I know is going to be painful, and I've still got to drill some more holes in the cow for the exhaust just to poke through. But that's going to probably be my, well, second to last job. I'll do that before I put the undercarriage on, I think. So that's going to probably be the very last thing I do is get the undercarriage put on. So yeah, let's get on with this radio gear and ignition system. Okay, so it's time to install the receiver. Just put this light on. Obviously fairly straightforward, so I'm going for a FrSky TDR10. So really like these receivers, use them in quite a few models now. And the beauty of these is it uses FrSky's tandem system. So this is 2.4 gig and 915 meg or 900 meg. So you've got that redundancy there, and it's simultaneous redundancy. So if one fails, it will immediately take over with the other. That's the idea. So I'm going to put it in this way round, so I can sort of get the 2.4 antennas laid out. So I'll have one stretched out here, and then one will stick up here like this. So we've kind of got them at 90 degrees, and then that will probably just sit the 900 meg one around there. So I'm just going to fasten it around here. Well, obviously stick it down with a sticky pad, and then all the cables can come in at the back. So I've rerouted, just had to take the rudder servo out to reroute the cable back. Obviously throttle cables there as well, so there's no other cables from up there. And then battery wise, I've got two battery packs to put in. I've got the ignition battery and the main receiver pack. I'm thinking I'm either going to put them here, and I'll just put a piece of wood in there and glue it to these two spars here so I can fasten the batteries down, or I can also put it there on that panel because I can still get to that. Need to be able to get to it fairly easy because I'm going to have to pull them out to charge them, so I don't want it to be really fiddly to get to, but that's quite far behind the CG there. But I'm not going to make that decision until I've got everything hooked up and it's pretty much finished. So engines on, cows on, undercarriage on, etc. Then I'll do another CG test and we'll see how far out we are, because we've also got the ignition system to go in here. So I've got to get all that in as well. So there's still a bit more weight to add to the front. So I'll get this receiver mounted, get that plugged in. Then I've got the fuel tank just to put in, so I'll show you that. And I might just glue the canopy on because that's a fairly easy job. Yeah, and then obviously then after that I've got the ignition system just to put in place and get cabled up. Okay, so just got the receiver in there, stuck on there nicely, and then as I said, antenna one going down here, which I've just taped to the deck, and the other one's going up here, and then I've just fastened the 900 meg one onto the side there, so that's all good. Routed the rudder and the throttle servo cables into it here. I've not connected the elevator cables just yet because I've actually got to swap these because they're slightly too small and it's a bit tight, so I've got some longer ones, but I'm not going to swap them just yet because I don't know when it comes to the CG whether I'm going to have to put some weight onto, like, on the back of the elevator servos. So I don't want to take them out just to put the leads on to then have to take them out again, because obviously where the servos screws go in, although I've used some CA, it's still a little bit fragile, so I don't want to keep unscrewing it and screwing it in again. So I'll leave that for now, but yeah, receiver's all in place, that's fine. So what I'm going to look at now is getting the fuel tank sort of set up and put in place. I've bought a new fuel tank, so this came today, so I've got a Dubro 24-ounce fuel tank. I always like these because I've got this lip on, so you can push it right up to the firewall. And I have bought the gas or petrol conversion stopper because this one The 24-ounce one's the biggest glow one you can get, and you need to buy this conversion stopper for it. If you get anything bigger than a 24-ounce, then you get two of these stoppers, either the glow or the gas one included. But there we are. So I'm going to get this set up, got to get the pipes installed. We only need just the pickup pipe and the clunk, and then there's obviously a vent pipe. That's all I need for that. So I'm going to get that set up, get that shoved into position. Not going to fasten it down just yet until I've got the engine in and everything, but at least I know where it's going to go. I mean, it goes in there nicely, as you can see, and then I've got the non-slip mat, and then there's two. You might be able to see if I take it out. Yeah, there's a servo cut out here for if you want to put the throttle servo up here, so I can use that to put a cable tie around underneath, and that should lock that in place. And obviously with the non-slip mat there, it's not going to move around. And of course, it's not like a super aerobatic 3D model, so it's not going to be upside down and all over the place. So it doesn't need to be super fastened down. So a cable tie over that and the non-slip mat will do just fine. And then once I've got that in place, then I can look at where I'm going to put the ignition system. But there's plenty of room down the side here, so I think it's going to probably live in here somewhere. But I'll get this tank done first, then we'll have a look at where we're going to put the ignition system. Right, so here's the electronic ignition pack out of the engine. So let's have a look what we've got in here. So we've got the two HT leads. They're obviously going to go to each cylinder. Then we've got the main ignition module here, so that's the bit that's going to have to go in the actual model. And then we've got the battery cable and RPM sensor, and then that's the one I think that goes to the actual engine. So I don't think we actually need the RPM sensor. I think that's just for if you want to if you've got like a module in the receiver, you can plug that in and it will tell you the RPM on the radio, but I haven't got that, so it's just battery, and then that one goes to the timing sensor on the engine itself. So let's get the model on the bench and let's have a look and see how we can get this thing connected. Okay, probably a bit difficult to see, but what I've done is I've put the ignition module here. So I've used a big, strong 3M sticky pad to stick that onto the side. Hopefully it's going to be alright on there, but we'll have to see how that goes. And then I've got the battery lead just running down here. So it's quite far away from the receiver. So the receiver's here. So I've got quite a distance, because I know you're supposed to keep these things as far apart as possible. Fuel tank still goes in there, as you can see, and then my throttle cable kind of just going around the fuel tank, but I've checked that it's all running smoothly still. And then at the front here we've got, that's the ignition timing lead, which doesn't come out very far, but I've checked, I've got the engine out, and the one on the engine's pretty long, so there's plenty of it's more than enough, that is, because the one from the engine, there's loads of slack on that. And then of course the HT leads just hanging out here, and they've got loads of room on those, so it's not going to be a problem. In fact, there's almost too much dangling out there. I'm going to have to kind of tuck it under the engine. Yeah, so hopefully that'll be alright. Obviously that's added a bit more nose weight, which I'm trying to avoid, but as I've said, I'm going to probably end up, I think, putting the battery either in here, or two batteries should I say. There's one for the receiver and one for the ignition. So I'm going to get this fuselage out of the way for a minute, and next job is to have a look at the undercarriage. The other thing I've done, by the way, is just stuck the canopy on. So I've just used some canopy glue. Well, I actually CA'd it just right in the middle. I just measured the middle and then lined it up with this. There's a line where the film goes, which is pretty much in the middle. So I lined that up with there, CA'd it on, tacked it there, and then at the corners, so that was in place, and then just ran some canopy glue all down here and all down here. doesn't fit very well around here, so there's a gap underneath there. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, in the kit you get some spare red trim, so I'm going to get some of that, cut it with my knife, cut myself like a strip about the same width as that, and then I'm just going to run that around here and down there just to seal it. Otherwise I think the air potentially could sort of get under here and possibly rip it off. I don't think it will, because it's not a fast plane and this is pretty solid, but I think it will just neaten it up as well if I just run that bead of film along there. And obviously with it being the same colour, it's going to blend in perfectly. But yeah, that was obviously a nice simple job. Right, let's have a look at the undercarriage. Okay, so here's the undercarriage, a couple of aluminium pieces, just fasten on like this. But then what we've got to do, and I'm going to do it before I put them on, is in here there's this pack. So just got to get this open. So you get these things, which obviously I've got to cut out, and these are meant to fasten on each side of here. So it forms kind of a cover on the undercarriage. So, and it actually suggests that you bolt these on. So I've got to drill some holes through here. So looks a bit rough and ready, but I'll get these cut out and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so here are the two completed undercarriage legs. I did end up drilling through and bolting those in, and as suspected, it is a bit naff really. Do tend to find that with some of these kits. The models themselves are fine, but some of the accessories you get are a bit rubbish. So these are a terrible fit. But for now I've just put some magic tape down the edges to sort of hold them together. But again, that doesn't look great. So I might see if I can put some more trim along here from the spare that's included in the kit. But they look alright. They should look alright once they're on the model. So it's an easy job to get them on. Just got these 3 bolts and got to put those through the bottom of the model. This hole's already drilled, so it's just a case of lining it up and screwing it in place. So I'm going to get that done now, and then I can get the tyres fitted. Right, so just to show you how the wheels are set up. So you got this long bolt here, washer, then wheel, then another washer, then a bolt, which I will just add a tiny bit of Loctite on. Like that, so the wheel still rotates around the bolt, and then that bit goes through the undercarriage leg, and then you put another bolt on the other side to secure it. But this is just a standard bolt, but I've got a lock nut, so I just found that out of my bits and bobs, because I much prefer having a lock nut on there, because I think even if you Loctite that, it's going to be a pain potentially. And that's it really. So I've got the other one already, so I'll just put this one on, and then that's the undercarriage done. Right then, I made a bit of a list just to get it finished off. So got to extend the elevator cables and add some weight to the back, which I've done. So the next thing I'm doing is installing the battery plate, connect up the radio gear, install, I've got an opto ignition switch, got to put the tank in, and I've got a filler for that as well to install. Loctite the engine mount bolts in, check the throttle, then install the cowl, and then set up the radio. So next on my list is the battery plate. So I just found a piece of birch ply that I got knocking around. It's actually off an old model of some description. So cut that down to size. I'm going to put the non-slip battery cover on, so got to spray mount that on with some surface mount adhesive, and then I can get the battery strapped to it. So I'll just get that done and then I can show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'll put the non-slip matting on there with some surface mount adhesive, and then we'll get the two packs. That one's going to go on there, that one's going to go on top, and then I'll get one of these straps. Sorry, that's the wrong way. Goes that way around, doesn't it, I think? That's it. So that's going to secure that in place, and that's absolutely solid. That's not going to move anywhere. So all I've got to do now is glue this plate down into the model, and obviously feed this strap through the bottom of it, and we're good to go. Okay, I know the light's not very good, but just to show you, that's where I've just glued the battery plate in place. So I've glued that in with some wood glue, so leave it overnight to dry, and that will be nice and solid. Right, next job is I've got this Rexel Optogas engine kill switch, so I can just kill the engine from the controller, which is going to be handy. So I can switch the ignition on and off basically. So I've got to fit this next up. Should be relatively straightforward. So I'm just going to check the instructions and then get that fitted. It's very light, so it doesn't really matter where it goes, but obviously I'll probably end up putting it up near the top of where the engine is. So yeah, get that sorted next. Right then, so just to show you, I've got the little Rexel ignition unit mounted here. I just run a cable which runs back to the battery, and then it's plugged into the receiver as well. So that's all connected, and obviously it's plugged into the actual ignition system, which is just in here. A bit difficult to see. So next thing I'm going to do is I've got one of these little Dubro quick fill attachments that I use on quite a few of my models, and basically if you push it in like that, it allows the fuel to travel between these two. If you pull it out like that, then it only allows the fuel to travel through this one. So it's designed to be able to fill the tank without having a separate filler tube basically. So I just need to get that installed. It's fairly straightforward. I'm going to just drill a hole through here, although I'm going to do it on the other side, but you can't see the other side at the moment. So drill a hole around here, and then that just pushes through, and then there's just a washer, well, nut, sorry, to secure that in place. And obviously I've got to plumb it as well. Just put the fuel pipe on before I put that into place, so it's not too fiddly. So once I've done that, I can then get the tank put in, get the tank cable tied, and that's all sorted. So we're making pretty good progress here. We're almost there with all these little jobs. Once I've done this, I've just got to set the radio gear up, and then the last sort of big job I've got to do is fit the cowl. But I might do that in a separate video, because I'm going to fly it first with the cowl off, because I've got to run the engine in and everything anyway with the cowl off, because once I've done the first initial running in of the engine, you've then got to take the tappet covers off, or rocker covers should I say, and just adjust the tappets. So no point in putting the cowl on really for the first couple of flights. So yeah, I'll probably do that in a separate video, but I'm going to get this little valve installed, get the tank installed, get all the radio gear set up, get the throttle set up, and then we should be good to go. So I'll show you when all that's done. Right then, we're getting close to the end of this particular episode now. I've just got one last little thing that I've noticed, which I'm going to show you, that I need to sort out, and then final piece will just be, I'll get it all assembled and show you the finished article, minus the cowl of course, like I've said. But one thing I noticed last night was I've got a problem with the throttle. So I've got the cable coming out here, and it's nice and smooth to there, really smooth, but when you pull it back, which is full throttle, it won't go anymore. And I think it's because basically I think I made a bit of a mistake and I've mounted the throttle cable slightly too high, because as this comes back it goes down, of course. So what I tried doing last night, which has half worked, if you can see there, I put an extra Z bend in it to drop it down basically by, well, whatever that is, what, 3 mils, 4 mils, something like that. It's kind of worked, but it's still, as you can see there, it's still sort of forcing it down and getting stuck. So I can't get full throttle. So what I'm going to try doing is extending the throttle arm, which is a bit annoying, but that's where we are. So what I'm going to do is get this servo arm, cut a piece off, so cut one of the arms off, and then attach that to there with a couple of tiny little bolts. I'm hoping the holes of this servo arm line up. I think they do when I measured it earlier. So I'll just have that poking up. So it's just a bit of a straighter run for the cable, and then I'll cut it here, and then we'll use my Z bend that I've put in to go into the throttle, and I think that should sort it, and then I should have full movement of the throttle. So I'm just going to play around with that, and then I'll show you where I've got to. Okay, well, that's everything sorted. You can see, got the engine mounted. The only thing I've got left to do on that is just Loctite the bolts in, and then obviously get it ready for running. So I've got to put the exhaust on, put the prop on. You've got to put some oil in it the first time you run it, so there's a little nipple on top there. I think you can just see you have to put 30 millilitres of oil in, neat oil, and turn it over just to make sure that's well lubricated around the engine before you actually turn it over for the first time. So got to do all that sort of stuff, but everything else is done. Obviously, as I've said a few times, the cow I'm going to finish off once I've ran the engine in and done a few flights with it, because there's quite a lot of messing around you've got to do on the engine once you've run it a few times, and obviously it will also be easier for me to troubleshoot without that on. So, simple solution to the throttle. So I've got all that hooked up now, so just zoom in a bit so you can see. So there's the throttle servo there. So that's all hooked up, and basically all I did is I adjusted the throttle barrel movement. So I made it so that when it was on full throttle, the barrel wasn't so far back towards the fuselage, it was more sort of in the middle, because it was pushing it easier, it just wasn't pulling it, and that's sorted it. So that was a simple solution in the end. The problem is with this is every time I needed to test the throttle, I had to mount the engine, then unmount it, then mount it, then unmount it. So it was a bit of a pain, but it's all working now. Nice, and it's really nice and quite easy. I've moved the cable myself before I've connected it up to the server, and it's a nice smooth movement. So that's all working in there. Rudder servo is hooked up with the closed loop. That's all working very nicely. And then at the back, well, can't really get them in the shot, the elevators at the back, but they're all working. So obviously there's 2 servos at the back that control the elevators. They're all synced up and trimmed up. And then the last few little bits, you can see, got my receiver installed there. So that's a twin, FreeSky twin receiver, so 2.4 gig, 915 megs or 900 megs. And then fuel tank's obviously in place and secure, as you can see. And what I do is I put a little bit, I think you can just about make it out on the camera, a little bit of the E6000 glue on the cable tie there, just let that gloop on, and it really secures it in place. It's absolutely solid now, that is. It's not going to move anywhere, but it's easy to get out if you need to. Just cut the cable tie and then you just peel that glue off, so it's pretty good. And then you can probably just about make out here is the opto electronic ignition cut-off. Not tested that yet, obviously, but it's all hooked up. I just need to get the battery installed for that, but I'll do that when I'm going to start it. And then you can see at the side there, I've just installed the Dubro quick fill. So that's all piped up to the fuel tank, and then the other side of that goes to the engine. Pretty easy to plumb in actually. It's just one feed to the engine. There's no like exhaust back pressure or anything like that you need to think about, because it's got a little pumped carburetor, so it will suck the fuel out. And there's just a vent line inside the front of the fuselage which comes off the tank just to allow the air to get in as it sucks the fuel out. So that is going to bring this video to an end. It's been a bit of a long one, I think. I'll see when I get it all edited. Lots of bits and bobs, but this is now ready to take down to the flying field, get the engine bed in, and then take it for its maiden. So I'll definitely be filming the maiden. I won't film getting the engine bed in, but yeah, we'll film the maiden for sure. So if you've enjoyed following along to this and you're into fixed wing, balsa, engines, all that sort of stuff, then please follow along to the channel. I'd love to have you on board as a channel member. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. You just click on the subscribe button and it's completely free. And if you're enjoying what I do, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell icon, then you'll get notified when I release the maiden flight video. And if you've got any comments, stick them in the comments box and I'll always try and get back to you. Alright, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next one.